Ok, buen día, bienvenidos y bienvenidas al Rincón del Profe Jeff. Welcome to another episode today. Today we got something really special for you. We've never done this before in our podcast. We're bringing in a virtual visitor. And without further ado, I'll introduce her, Daniela. She's a friend and colleague of ours here. And you can see by the hat that I'm wearing and all of the get up that Daniela has on and her background. It's great. We're going to be talking about Venezuela. Así que gracias por estar aquí, Daniela, con nosotros.
Gracias. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Profe Jeff, for your invitation to your podcast.
No, this is
I'm
great.
really, huh?
No, this is great to have you because I have to about the only connection I can say that I have with Venezuela, aside from having other students. Venezuela will always hold a special place in my heart because my first Spanish teacher was from Venezuela,
Mhm.
and he taught Spanish to us. He would come in his little poncho, and that's something he wore all the time to distinguish. This was here in the United States, and he was a singer, and he brought in his guitarra. I know you're going to
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about another typical instrument from Venezuela, and he would sing songs from Venezuela and talk to us about Venezuela. So I'm really excited that we get to do this today. So maybe
Mhm.
I can just give you a little bit of time to introduce yourself. Maybe tell us about where exactly in Venezuela you're from, family. I know. So whatever you want to do, and as always in the podcast, if you want to do it in Inglés, Español, or Spanglish, no hay problema.
Mhm. Okay, so I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and Caracas is the capital of the country. And I lived there till I was 8 or 9 years old. I really don't remember. And well, as is the situation for many other people in Venezuela, we had to leave the country to the situation. Like, I think by data from 2024, there are around 8 million Venezuelans outside the country. But the capital, Caracas, I will describe it as a very vibrant city.
Maybe I can
Um,
I'll
yeah.
share a picture if that's okay.
Mhm.
So real quick, here's the map of Venezuela. One thing that I always remember how to identify it is it looks like a V. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
there's the Ciudad Capital, Caracas, and here's our picture. So sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a great picture because as you can see in here, it's a valley and it's surrounded by a mountain range. It's called El Ávila. So basically, wherever you are in the city, you can see El Ávila. It's like very well known for everyone. And when you think of Caracas, this is the picture that comes to your mind.
So
Um,
it's easy to tell which direction you're traveling because you know which mountains.
exactly.
I'm always lost when there aren't any mountains. So this looks like a place I could
Uh-huh.
get into.
I know. Other than that, since it's the capital, also is like the part where it's more developed in terms of financial, cultural. There are more things that are offered in theaters and other type of cultural activities. It's very rich on that, and so we are very close to. It's considered the Caribbean region. So the temperatures throughout the year are very, very pleasant.
Oh,
In degrees Celsius is 22, which I think is low 80s
yeah.
Fahrenheit. Yeah. And we do have different seasons. It's kind of like a summer, spring throughout the year. We do get a rainy season from May to November. But other than that, you can basically have just one set of clothes. You don't need a jacket and some long pants or things like that. It's not necessary, really.
So just something for the rain or not, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for the rain.
Very good. You mentioned maybe we can go back to map just so everybody understands again. You see Caracas is right here on the coast, but in the
Mhm.
mountains. So very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And something typical from Caracas too is that whenever you are in a balcony, you will see parrots, green parrots, and they are called guacamayas, and they are typical from there. Guacamayas. So I remember very vividly my grandma in her balcony feeding the guacamayas. They are like this big, like Chihuahua size parrots. So it's really beautiful to see them every day.
I know for many that would be paradise, right? So it
Uh-huh.
is paradise to, and those are just wild, right?
Yeah.
they just,
Wild.
they come in
Mm-hmm.
because the people feed them, but they flock and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Very good. Well, uh, maybe we can run through there's always, you mentioned that Caracas is on the kind of the Caribe. Would
Mm-hmm.
you maybe tell us a little bit about the different regions of
Yeah.
Caracas? I'll pull up the map. One thing
Mm-hmm.
I like to do, and I don't know this will help you, I'll switch the view to satellite. It kind of shows where the deserty type places are, where the greener
Mm-hmm.
places are. So,
Yeah. So there are different regions, and there has been different type of categorizations or of these regions depending on who did them. Basically, what people have tried to do over the years is to focus on characteristics of different areas, and then they determine, okay, this region is a desert area. It's complicated, and there can be many regions, but basically because of how biodiverse is Venezuela. I think it has more than 70% of the whole worldwide biodiversity. So we can talk more in deep, but we have desert and we have beaches and we have the jungle and we have forests and we have valleys. Um, so yeah, those will be the main traits
okay,
that these regions will have.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you guys know, before we started recording, Daniela and I went through and picked out some photos. So I'm going to just put them up in the order. If you tell us what we're looking at, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll jump between the map and the photo to show exactly where we're visiting. So first off is,
Mm-hmm. These are los llanos.
okay,
And these are valley areas on the on los so there is Los Andes and then you have the valley, those are los llanos.
okay.
And what we find is a lot of pastos, like green areas where and there are a lot of cows and horses that can eat freely in there.
So
Also from here,
this is where the cowboys are at, huh? What do they,
exactly,
cómo se dice cowboy en Venezuela?
como vaqueros.
Vaqueros también.
Uh-huh. And
Okay.
it's a similar lifestyle, I feel like, because people in there have big ranchos, big houses. And it's usually people that their lifestyle goes with like the cows and the fields and the agriculture, right? So it's a very different type of lifestyle than someone that lives in Caracas, for example, right?
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll jump to the next one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is Los Andes, and as you can see, it's a very green area. Um, as I mentioned before, Venezuela is known for its biodiversity, and in this type of altitude, we can find type of flowers and vegetation that we cannot find in other places. So that's why it's so, that's one of the characteristics that it has. And it's, as you can see, it has also very high peaks, unos picos muy altos. And you can even see snow in there at some during some time of the year.
See,
Mhm.
I think that's something that many from at least the United States don't realize. Everybody thinks always, oh, South America, it's always warm, and but we learned that in Ecuador and in
Uh-huh.
Colombia and now Venezuela, in the high peaks, even though there's closer to the equator, there's snow and in some cases glaciers because it lasts year round, right?
Uh-huh, exactly. I'm not sure if it's all year round,
Oh, in
but for
Venezuela,
sure,
probably not, right?
in Venezuela, I'm not sure it may be, but I know that at some point of the year you can find snow in there. Yeah.
Cool.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Something I like about this, I mean, it looks very typical and maybe too typical, but the houses
Mm-hmm.
are usually painted white with the red,
Yeah.
almost red tile roofs, and just the construction is very similar. So
Mm-hmm.
very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go from the mountains to the.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So this is the Caribbean region. And
This would be
what
the
happened in Venezuela is that we
Caribbean
have,
part. Yeah.
uh-huh, exactly. And even if you zoom in, you will see the amount of islands that we have. I think it's more than 300, some 320.
All of these, because we
Yeah.
also Aruba and Curacao, which are apart, but
Mhm.
all of these are belong to Venezuela, right?
Exactly. Yeah. One of the most famous one is Margarita, La Isla de Margarita, and then a group of islands that is also very famous is this one, Los Roques.
Okay.
This is Los Roques, but it could be other type of islands. They are very similar. You can see it's white sand. It's very shallow water. The climate is tropical. Um, what else can I say? We get many tourists that go there. People from many places of Venezuela that go there and spend Semana Santa, Navidad, because it's a continuous summer throughout the year. Um, so, mhm.
So you mentioned tourists from other parts of Venezuela? Are there others that come from other countries as well, or are these typically?
Well, I'm not sure how is the tourism situation currently in
Oh yeah,
Venezuela.
right.
Yeah, but I know that
Traditionally,
back in the 70s, it was paradise, this place. People will come from all over the world to go to these islands because it's muy paradisíaco, right? It's like the image you have maybe in your mind of a perfect beach with this color of the water. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. To go snorkeling and stuff. But like, we'll talk about what you mentioned there after we go through all this about how things changed, because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are aware of what's going on in Venezuela now, and so we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Just so people know, we'll get there. All
Yeah.
right. This one was very curious to me when we picked it out. So,
Yeah. So again, going back to the how diverse, right, Venezuela is. We have seen the forest, we have seen the beach, but we have seen that we can also have snow, and we also have a desert. And this is the only desert we have in Venezuela is el Parque Nacional Médanos del Coro. And basically consists of um, a lot of sand, un desierto de
sand,
arena.
in English, we call them sand dunes.
Sand dunes,
It looks
exactly.
it looks like it could be from some part here in the United States or also in Africa.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, like the Sahara. It could
all right,
perfectly be one of those. Yeah. Um, but it's definitely something that you do not expect to
right,
find in a country like Venezuela. So I think it's something, yeah, like a hidden gem of our country.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. That's something I learned. I had no idea there were the sand dunes there. And this
Mm-hmm.
is super interesting too. So I'm excited to learn about this.
Yeah. So I would like to ask maybe the students who are listening or maybe watching this podcast, know what do they think of this picture, where it could be, if this was the typical image or portrait they will have of Venezuela. I'm sure maybe for most of them it is not. When we see this type of architecture is
Yeah, I
some
think Europe.
constructions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it reminds you of Europe. Yeah, you are right. You're completely right. And you might be wondering, okay, why this happened? So it is quite the story. Because in the 1840s, I think, once Venezuela went through the separation of La Gran Colombia. So before there was La Gran Colombia. So it was the unification of Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Panama, what we understand for these countries nowadays. And when they separated, Venezuela wanted to grow economically. And a way to do so is that they allow immigrants to come to the country like in an easier way. They facilitated this process. So many people from Germany and also from Holland, they came to Venezuela. And this is quite a story because they were un poco engañados. They were
Yeah.
not told completely the
All the
truth.
truth.
Yeah, because they told them, okay, come to Venezuela, there will be houses for you and there will be a lot of work. And yes, there was a lot of work, but when they arrived, there were no houses. They will just drop in the jungle and they had to build this, what we call colonia tovar, from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
so
was this in
mhm.
the the early 1900s,
This was, yeah, 1840.
1840s? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So people who arrive there, they maintain sus costumbres, their traditions, their food,
El idioma.
el idioma también, their language. They maintain all of that. Obviously, throughout the years, now they are completely Venezuelans and they still have their traditions, but they have assimilated to the country. But as you can see, they maintain the architecture of their houses and their buildings and their churches. But definitely for them, when they arrived, it was a cultural shock. And as I said, they were not really told the truth. And then, even if they wanted to go back, they were forced to work without pay because they had to pay for the trip to Venezuela. That exactly. Um, but still a very beautiful place. And as you can see, many people travel to La Colonia Tovar. It's a place very touristic, um, and it's high in the mountain, so it's fresh. People go there with the sweaters, and it's quite an experience
I
to
mean,
go there.
it does look like it could be somewhere back from where they were from. So
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I mean, we've learned about in some other studies or other podcast episodes that we've done about immigration from Europe. Everybody
Hmm.
thinks that it was only the Spaniards that came, right? And obviously
Yeah,
that's important because of the Spanish language. But we talked about in Argentina, there were also Germans and Eastern Europeans. In Chile as well. There were people from Switzerland
yeah,
like that, and now Venezuela, the same type of influence.
yeah.
So
Well, the Germans had a big influence in this colony, La Colonia Tovar, but it's also true that we have many other type of immigrants, and you can see that in the demographic in Venezuela. We receive many immigrants from Italy, from Spain, and from Portugal, and their su herencia is still visible nowadays. We have panaderías portuguesas.
yeah,
So all of our bakery that it's now part of the Venezuelan tradition are from Portuguese people, right? Hmm.
that's cool. Very
Hmm.
well, interesting. So I think our next one, everybody, as soon as I show the picture, is going to know what it is.
Hmm. Beautiful. Hmm.
The Salto Angel. I think most when I bring this up with my students, and maybe you've had that experience too, everybody says, "Oh, that's the waterfalls from Up, the mute."
Uh-huh. Exactly. The Pixar movie. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's breathtaking. I don't even think any picture can really show how big this is. I think it's 3,000, let me see, 3,000 feet.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
of uninterrupted waterfall.
right.
So, this is the highest uninterrupted waterfall in that we have that exists.
And
So all
if I understand, it's pretty isolated and hard to get to as well, right? In Minnesota,
Yeah, it's in the
Far
middle of
Eastern.
jungle. It's very difficult to access. It's in the National Park of Canaima. Indigenous people still live there. And as a tourist, I think it's encouraged to book a trip with them, people native from there that can guide you and can take you to the places that are also safe, right? That you don't, yeah, that you don't put your life at risk when going there. Mhm.
One thing
Um,
we should add, and I know we've talked about it already, uh, Daniela has put together a great list of videos that you guys can check out in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to it, we
mhm.
always recommend you go to the YouTube version so you can see these. And there's some, we'll include a video that is a 360-degree video of Salto Ángel. It's just impressive. You get kind of get, like Daniela was saying, it's isolated and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. You can see the falls, and then you can see what the falls see, which is
Uh-huh.
endless forests. So
Yeah. And if you ever visit, you can go till not that close to the waterfall, but um, under it, there are like natural pools of water, and you can be there, as close as it's is safely to do it.
right,
Yeah. So you can enjoy the whole experience of being close to the highest waterfall.
in the world.
Uh-huh.
I think, obviously that's one that's on the bucket list, but
Uh-huh.
but I just think the immensity of it makes, to me, it's just impressive to see the size and the grandeur of something like that. So,
Yeah. I think from a touristic point of view, as you mentioned, right, you would like to see it, but also from people that are maybe scientific, right? They also have a huge interest in this area
hmm,
um, due to the whole ecosystem. Think about the elevation that that mountain has. Those are called tepui,
Tepuy.
tepui, and then the top of those are flat. So it's very interesting because even though you are in the jungle, that altitude, that elevation difference that there is between the jungle and there, it creates like a whole other ecosystem and
Just-
type of animals and plants that you can find on the top of the tepuy compared to the bottom. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I'm just, I didn't read back up on those, but aren't they important to the indigenous people as far as their beliefs and their practices? I won't say religion, but
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the original name of this is Angels Falling. I don't remember exactly how it was translated by the from the original name of the indigenous people, but yet that the symbolism of that place goes back to centuries, and it's very important to be respectful when you go there. As I mentioned, maybe you need to tour it with someone that is from there, not just for your safety, but for being conscious of the elements that surround you and the place where you are at.
right, one of the things we always talk about are the perspectives, right? So we want to be respectful of the perspectives of the indigenous, the natives that live there and their practices, because that's part of, we always think of the geography, it's just physical stuff, but no,
Yeah.
it's part of everyday life. So
Exactly.
good. So mentioning perspectives, and just to remind students that are listening, when we talk about cultural items, we're always keep in mind the products, productos, the perspectives, perspectivas, prácticas, and then personas, and we'll talk about those. And so the geography and all the things we've been talking about now are all part of the product, but they also influence the practices and the perspectivas, like we talked about the colonias de Tovar. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah,
Tovar.
Colonia Tovar, sí.
So the practices there might have the influences from the places those people came from. And Daniela shared, there are panaderias portuguesas now, and that's part of Venezuela, but it came from
Ajá.
a different part. So one
Ujú.
of our favorite parts is always talking about the productos de comida. And
Uh-huh.
I know from what we picked out, there's some of that coming. So let's jump into that if we can.
Mm-hmm. Let's
Get,
go for it.
yeah, gotta get the menu out of the way so I can get,
Uh,
sorry. There we go. So I'll jump through them and you can tell us
uh-huh.
about them.
Okay, so in here we can see your typical Christmas dish that you will have at your family Christmas dinner. And this consists of an hallaca, and maybe you are familiar with the concept of a tamal. So
It looks
it's
like it
the
on
long,
the top of the plate. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So that consists of harina de maíz, corn flour,
Mhm.
that it's filled with different type of meats. It can be pork, it can be beef, it can be chicken, and it can be mixed. Usually have peppers, onions. It can also have olives. And this is a bit controversial because every family has its own recipe, right?
Yeah.
No ayaca, it will be the same, like even your tia to your mom's one, it's not gonna be the same. And the particularity of this is that it's wrapped on a green banana leaf.
Okay.
It's wrapped with con un hilo, with a thread, and it's boiled. And usually, once November time hit, either the family set up a whole weekend to start preparing the hallacas, or you already know someone that you like how they make the hallacas, and you say, okay, prepare 50 hallacas for me, so I will be eating it through. It's the holiday season, I would say, because Christmas is huge for us. So from November, you start celebrating.
So is there a name for that process? Because I know since we're in New Mexico and Greater Mexico area, they call it a tamalada when they all get together and
Mm.
make just for our listeners,
Uh-huh.
this is a ayaca spelled with an H, so it's spelled
Yeah,
HALLACA, ayaca. So is there
hallacas.
i- is there a word like
Mm,
tamalada?
I'm not sure it has a
Not,
name, at least I'm not aware of, but it's definitely a whole event
yeah.
in which there is music involved, there's a lot of cooking, there's a lot of drinking too,
Mhm.
alcoholic and non-alcoholic, whatever you prefer. But yeah, it becomes a whole event of the season.
That's great. Looks yummy.
Yeah, that's really yummy. And Venezuelans thought it was not enough with una yaca. It's
So
not it's not filling enough. So this is usually what you get. On the left side, we can see una ensalada de gallina,
okay.
and it's usually has potato, carrot, green peas, and gallina, carne de gallina.
Okay.
You can also make it with pollo, with chicken, but it's usually hen, gallina.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Muy
And
bien.
then you have carne, cochino, perdón, pork that you make it in the oven,
So roasted pork.
roasted pork.
Very good.
Uh-huh.
And then
And
these look like
then,
some kind of rolled sandwich or
this is pan de jamón.
pan de jamón.
And it's actually a very long bread.
Oh,
Uh, and that bread is sweet. It has sugar. And inside, even though it's called pan de jamón, it has jamón, ham, but it also has bacon, tocineta. We call
oh,
it tocineta.
well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
hungry. Tengo hambre.
I know. And as you can see, it has olives and it has pasas,
Pasas de uva.
raisins. Yeah, this is also controversial because some people do not like the olives, some people don't like the raisins. So, um, you know, it varies from family or from person to person. Mm-hmm.
Looks like a good Christmas or holiday holiday
Uh-huh.
feast. All right, this next one was interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're going
Mm-hmm.
to tell us what we're looking at here. Street food.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is a street food, and this you can find it in every corner of the city, of every city. It's also typical to have it when you go like after party, you stop in a place, you get un perro caliente,
Perro caliente.
ajo, a hot dog, un perro caliente,
¿Le dicen,
or
le dicen hot dog o perro caliente en
un
Venezuela?
perro caliente, no
Perro-
hot dog, no. Mhm. Another
Pero
example
es
is
un
that
hot dog con todo, parece.
con todo. Sí, that's how you order it actually, un perro con todo.
Ok.
Ajá, and con todo usually implies mayo, ketchup, mustard, cheese,
Wow.
grated cheese. It can have repollo, which is I'm not sure
Repollo
what
is cabbage.
cabbage. Ajá. Y
Sometimes we call it col around here too.
col.
Yeah.
Ajá, col, repollo, cabbage.
Mhm.
Y it always needs to have papitas fritas, which
Papitas
is
fritas. Wow.
papitas fritas, like potato chips, but that they are like a very fine, they have very fine shape.
Oh,
That's the ones.
that's what these look like here. Like
Ajá.
almost like um, shredded potatoes or what we'd have like hash browns, but really thin French fries. So yeah,
Exactly. So I don't know what it is about it, but we love the crunchy component that it adds to our perro caliente. So that's the typical way we will have it.
that's cool. Very good.
Hmm.
You said street food, but parties after you're going out, this is kind of we're still hungry. Let's go get a perro caliente.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Now the next one we're gonna bring up is interesting because we've talked about it in different podcasts as well, especially our podcast from Colombia. And one of the things we always like to do to remember is that there are many similarities with many of our Latin American countries. And in those similarities, there are also some differences. And so we saw the arepas with Colombia, and arepas also exist in Venezuela.
Yeah. I know our colleague, right? She explained about how they are eaten, how they are prepared in Colombia. It does not differ that much. I mean, still is corn flour, pre-cooked corn flour. I think what is different is what we put inside. It can be as simple as cheese and butter, mantequilla y queso, or you can find other typical fillings, which are carne mechada,
Mm,
shredded beef. You can find one that is called reina pepiada because each of them have their own name. So you order, oh, dame una reina pepiada, give me a reina pepiada, and you know exactly what it is, which is a mix of avocado, chicken, and mayo.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
And I
What
assume that there are like stores, cafes, or restaurantes that just do arepas, right?
Yeah, just do arepas. Like I remember before going to school in the mornings, I would stop with my dad in a corner shop, and either we get our arepas or our empanadas,
Mm,
the carne molida, ground beef, carne mechada, or cheese, or yeah, that would be your typical breakfast at
this
school. Mm-hmm.
good. Uh, we like to call it comfort food in English, right? It
Uh-huh.
makes
Comfort food.
nostalgic remembering those types of things. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's great. And I know that there are some videos in the description about the different foods we just saw, and we always recommend hands-on experience. So check out some of the recipes and try and make them yourselves. I think I'm gonna try the perro caliente.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
I'm sure you will like it.
all right. Well, we're gonna kind of switch gears a little bit and just talk about a few of maybe the historical things, how society, what society is like in Venezuela. You mentioned at the beginning that you lived there, you know, for the first part of your life, but then due to the situation, your family left the country. But you mentioned a little bit ago about the connection with uh, the Gran Colombia, because there was Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela. I'd forgotten Panama was
Panama.
also part of that. Um, and but Venezuela became an independent country
Yeah.
at some
Mhm.
point. Could you tell us a little bit about that historical fact?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will tell you what I remember from school because this
Yeah,
story is taught to us from a very young age. You
right.
learn how to draw your flag, the colors you use, the number of stars you have in your flag.
How many stars are there?
Siete? Uno,
Siete.
dos, tres,
Sí,
cuatro, cinco.
uno, dos,
Is it missing one in there? I'm not sure.
siete. There's siete on my hat, so we're good.
Ajá,
I
siete,
think
sí.
this is our little Venezuelan flag up here too. You can't see it all.
Ajá, exactly. And so what happened is that there was like a unification, as you said, of all these countries that nowadays are Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, and Ecuador. And there was a very important figure called Simón Bolívar.
Mhm.
He is called El Libertador, the liberator,
Liberator. Mhm.
the liberator. And he was the one in charge of liberating Venezuela from the Spanish Empire. Yeah.
Mhm.
So first he did Venezuela, but he also was the leader in for this process in the other countries. Hmm.
And so that's
Um,
why, just a side note, that's why you'll see similar colors in all the flags, and that's why you'll see each one of those countries revere Simón Bolivar as their liberator
El
from
Libertador.
from
Hmm.
the Spanish
Yeah.
Empire. So
And even our currency is called El Bolívar.
El Bolivar.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
And just this is another side note too. I do a lot of document translation, and I've translated things from Venezuela. And on official things, it says the República Bolivariana de
Uh-huh.
Venezuela. I think it's
Exactly.
I think it's the only one that's maintained that title, though, as part of their official country name.
Yeah, exactly. That's the official name of Venezuela, República Bolivariana de Venezuela. And when Simón Bolívar started this process, he advocated for a republic, but also for a country that had a constitution.
Hmm,
So those were his aim when he started all this process of liberation from the Spanish colony.
very good.
Of course, there was some criticism to his methods. Some people say that maybe he was too violent in this process, and it might be true. But yeah, that's maybe, or maybe it's a bit authoritarian.
Mhm.
But definitely, he was the leader that we had during this whole process of
Of
not
separation.
being
Yeah.
separation. Yeah,
Independence from.
independence. Exactly.
Is there a specific date that is celebrated as the Independence Day?
I know there is a day right now. I don't remember
That's
which
okay.
day it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for sure, yeah. And for example, in schools, it's typical to find a portrait of Simon Bolivar on the walls. Um, Other than that, like we also sing the national anthem every morning in the school. Yeah, and we are taught the history. Uh, yeah. Mhm.
Very good. And so Venezuela became its own republic apart from Colombia and all the other countries we mentioned. And throughout the years, it's seen prosperity. And I know, for example, I'm talking back in the 80s, so that's how old I am. Sorry. when I was when I was in the Spanish class with my Venezuelan teacher, things were booming in Venezuela
Yeah.
because of oil production, petroleum, and
Yeah.
then things changed. So I don't know if you can take us through that kind of.
Yeah, I can take you through maybe the story that is closest to me.
Sure,
And as you
that's
mentioned,
that's best.
yeah, what you said is completely right. And yeah, Venezuela also has one of the biggest reservoir of oil. It has many elements that could make it a very prosperous country based on the tourism or the agriculture, or the oil reservoirs. And in my experience, I did not live in the 80s or the 70s, 60s, but my parents went through those golden periods of time, and both my grandparents from both sides of my family immigrated to Venezuela. So
Hmm.
they arrived by boat my mom's family from Sicily in
Oh, wow.
Italy, and my dad's family from Asturias in Spain.
Oh,
And they were escaping the war that was
yeah.
taking place in Europe. Yeah, so they were experiencing famine and a lot of hardships. And what they found in Venezuela, what they describe it is was something like heaven, unbelievable for them. There was a lot of hardship also when they arrived. They arrived by boat and they did not have family. So what people used to do is live with other Sicilian families or with other families from Spain and create like a community till they became, able to support themselves and live in separate houses instead of two, three families in one house, for example.
Wow.
And those were really, really economic years of economic prosperity. There has also always been some type of turmoil in the politics of the country. It's very complex because, yeah, it will take a whole
Yeah,
podcast to, to
that's a whole
explain.
class, a whole history class on this
Exactly.
politics in
Yeah.
Latin America. So,
Yeah. But as I think I mentioned in the beginning, it is part of the of being Venezuelan to have this thought of, do I leave the country? Do I stay here? Like, what if I leave? Where do I go? Um, Almost 8 million people of Venezuelans are outside Venezuelan.
wow,
We can find them in Miami, in other
everywhere.
places of Florida, in Ciudad de Mexico. There's a big number of them. Buenos Aires, and then Madrid, Barcelona. A lot of people went to those places. I think there were different times in the 2000s in which people left the country. Like, for example, my family left in 2001, and that was like the first, kind of like
Well,
the first wave of people that
okay.
left. And then there were points in 2015, 2017, in which the situation in the country got really complicated. The currency was really devaluated. It's still very devaluated. Like the minimum wage, I think, is around 200, uh, no, or even less. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know
Uh,
what it is.
yeah,
It's
$200
for a month, for
for
a
a
month.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what people they don't grasp. 200, we talk about $200 in a day for some people,
yeah,
a
no,
week,
no,
but
no.
imagine $200 a month. How can someone?
No, that's impossible. And many people depend on their family members that are in foreign countries.
Hmm,
Um, and then we have been through more challenging times in the early 2000s where there was no food.
hmm,
There have been many restrictions applied to Venezuela on what they could receive. So, about supplies or medical supplies. For example, my grandma had a cancer, and my family had to send her medication from Spain for her
Ooh,
to be able to take it because those medications were not found in Venezuela. So definitely challenging times. And I think nowadays still not much has changed. That's kind of like how the situation have been for 25 plus 25 years, something like that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like you said, it's hit. I think it's hit everyone, hasn't it, in some way or another? I mean, there
Yeah.
obviously the people in government now are maybe unfazed by it, but the common people in Venezuela, like you and your family, were affected. And what a difficult decision to have to make. Do I stay and suffer through all this, or do I leave the only place that I've known as home,
Yeah.
and
There's really no right choice, and every choice has a reason. Obviously, you don't want to leave your country, your family, your friends, or even just the food and the streets you grew up with. It's not an easy choice. But also people that have left the country or that are still thinking about leaving, they want a better future, not just for themselves, for their families, for their kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
So do you have any family members left in Venezuela that,
I
or
don't have any family member. Both my grandma, my uncles, my cousin, and then my parents and my brother. No one is there.
everyone left?
Everyone left.
Any friends that you still maintain contact with there? I know.
That's not the case for me because it was not the social media
Okay,
times.
that's right.
And yeah, I guess if I would have been teenager, maybe when I left the country, there would be still chances, but I was
Yeah,
8 years old. So yeah, my parents still maintain some friends, but they are spread throughout the world. So, you have phone calls from time to time, but it's a really challenging dynamic to keep
as
those friendships
that's
alive. Yeah.
worldwide.
Yeah, I think many people what they try to do is to stay connected
Mhm.
in some way. You can read the news nowadays with social media. You can be up to date with many things very easily, and that was not the case when we left the country. When we left the country where we moved, we couldn't find avocados, or la harina pan, like the corn flour that we use for arepas. It
Arepas.
was not found in there. But nowadays you find those products everywhere and you can be up to date with the news and even more mainstream things like music. Now there's bigger representation. Even in music, there are artists like Rawayana,
Oh,
Elena Rose, Danny Ocean that they make urban music. Before there was not this industry in Venezuela, it was not possible to have it. There were not the means. Um,
now because they've gone out, they've been able to do that.
exactly. In the last 5 years, I would say there have been like a boom of different type of artists that are representing Venezuela. For example, I mentioned Rawayana. They
Mhm.
won a Grammy this year.
Well,
So I think it's a proud moment, and it makes you appreciate that these people went through a lot of effort to, reach their goals. So that's something I really admire.
that's,
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, the question that comes to my mind when I hear that your story like that is, what is it that you do personally? And maybe you've mentioned all of these products and things that we've looked at and seen. How do you maintain your connection, even though it was only for 7 years, with obviously your family has been there for more than your lifetime. So
Yeah.
what is it that you do to maintain those connections with what it means to be Venezuelan and in
Yeah.
Venezuela?
What I do, well, as you mentioned, my family, my parents were both born and raised in there. Even they have their heritage, but they are Venezuelan. So that's something that we have always had at home, that we are Venezuelans and this is our culture and will always be. And then as an adult, well, you have to find your ways to stay connected in a way that works for you. For me, I found podcasts to be something that I enjoy. And as I wash the dishes, I can listen to it, or as I'm walking my dog. And I share one of those in the document that you are going to share with the students. For example, is one called El Cuartito, and it's three Venezuelan comedians that left Venezuela and now they are living in Ciudad de Mexico. And they talk about many things related to Venezuela and even to Latin America. You don't need to be Venezuelan to listen to that podcast. Um, and it keeps you just in touch with things that are currently happening or things related to immigration that, most of us have gone through. And that's the way I stay updated. But I don't like to necessarily read the newspaper and read every day about maybe the bad things that are happening in Venezuela. So I like taking it with a touch of comedy, take it light and still stay informed, but not having that heavy feeling on me every day.
Right. Do you think that if you had the chance to go back, not to live, but to visit, you would do that?
Definitely. I think it's a big dream of mine to go there. It will always be home, and somehow it feels like a place that has been taken from me and from many people. So yeah, hopefully one day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what we hope as well. Such
Uh-huh.
such a beautiful place and beautiful people. One of the connections that I always enjoy with these types of visits and meeting people from Venezuela and other countries is just to learn of the humanity, the stories that they're able to share, and to find out that in many ways we're not that different, right? That we have a lot of things in common no matter where we're from, but then each of us are different because of the places that we've come from. So, well, I want to thank you, Daniela, for opening our eyes about Venezuela. I don't know if you have any final thoughts that you might want to share with us, with the students, an invitation maybe, and then we'll.
Yeah. So thank you, and I encourage every single student of yours that watches or listens to this podcast to maybe explore more of the Venezuelan culture. See if in your city you have a Venezuelan restaurant. Go try our arepas, empanadas, hallacas. Maybe get exposed to the music, salsa, merengue, reggaeton, and yeah, there's a lot to discover from this beautiful country.
Yeah, that's great. And again, just a reminder, Daniela's prepared a great list of all kinds of videos and things. As she mentioned, the podcast as well. So check all those out in the video description that will be there with this podcast. So, well, again, thank you, Daniela, and
Gracias.
thank you all for listening. Y les invitamos para la próxima.
Ujú.
Adiós.
Adiós.